The telegram arrived 3 days too late. By the time Thomas Caldwell unfolded the thin yellow paper with trembling fingers, the war had already swallowed the man it was meant to save. He stood on the wooden platform of a forgotten train station in rural Pennsylvania, the smell of coal smoke hanging thick in the air, and read the message again, as if the words might rearrange themselves out of pity. Return immediately. New evidence proves your brother is alive. Stop. But his brother, James Caldwell, had been officially declared dead 6 weeks earlier, lost somewhere in the tangled chaos of Europe during the final days of World War I, buried without a body, remembered without a grave. Thomas folded the telegram slowly. If the message was true, then everything he thought he knew about the war, about his brother, about the stories told by governments and generals was wrong. And if it was wrong, then someone had lied. Thomas had never trusted war stories, not the kind printed in newspapers with bold headlines and heroic sketches, and certainly not the kind politicians told from polished podiums. War, as far as he understood it, was quieter, messier, and far more inconvenient than the narratives Americans preferred to believe. James, however, had believed. He had believed in duty, in honor, in the idea that crossing an ocean to fight in foreign mud somehow made the world cleaner back home. He had enlisted in 1917 with a grin so wide their mother cried for 3 nights straight, not from pride, but from something closer to dread. Wars don't make heroes, she had said, clutching his coat sleeve. They make ghosts. James had laughed it off. 6 months later, the Army stopped writing back. The official report was brief. Private First Class James Caldwell, missing in action following engagement near the Meuse-Argonne region, presumed deceased. No details, no witnesses, no body. Just a sentence that reduced a life into a line of ink. Thomas remembered the day it arrived. His mother had sat at the kitchen table, staring at the letter as if it might bite her. She didn't cry this time. She simply nodded once, folded the paper, and placed it neatly beside her teacup. "Then we will wait," she said. "For what?" Thomas asked. "For the truth," she replied. Now, months later, Thomas stood holding a telegram that threatened to unravel that fragile acceptance. He boarded the next train east without telling anyone. New York City in 1919 was not the triumphant vision people expected after victory. Yes, there were parades, flags draped from windows, bands marching down Fifth Avenue, soldiers kissed by strangers who didn't know their names. But beneath the celebration was something else, a restless, uneasy tension, like a city holding its breath. Men returned from Europe changed in ways no one could quite explain. Some drank too much, others refused to speak at all. Factories that had thrived during wartime struggled to adapt. And rumors, whispers of secrets buried in the war's final days, circulated in quiet corners. Thomas didn't come for celebration. He came for answers. The telegram had been sent from a government office near the Brooklyn Navy Yard, a narrow brick building that looked more like a warehouse than a place where truths were uncovered. Inside, the air smelled of ink and damp paper. A clerk with tired eyes glanced up as Thomas approached the counter. "I'm here about this," Thomas said, placing the telegram down. The clerk scanned it quickly, his expression tightening almost imperceptibly. "You shouldn't have received this," he muttered. Thomas felt a chill crawl up his spine. "What does that mean?" "It means," the clerk said, lowering his voice, "that someone made a mistake." "My brother is alive," Thomas pressed. "That's not a mistake." The clerk hesitated. For a moment it seemed like he might say more. Then he shook his head. "You need to leave." "I'm not leaving without answers." The clerk leaned closer. "Listen carefully," he whispered. "If your brother is who I think he is, then he wasn't just missing, he was taken." Taken. The word lingered like smoke. "Taken by who?" Thomas asked, but the clerk had already stepped back, his face closing off. I've said too much. Go home, Mr. Caldwell. Forget the telegram. Forget your brother." Thomas didn't move, because for the first time since the war began, he felt something stronger than grief. He felt purpose. That night, Thomas rented a small room overlooking the East River. Ships moved like shadows across the dark water, their horns echoing through the fog. He spread the few documents he had across the narrow bed, the official report, James's last letter, and the telegram. There was something wrong with the timeline. James had been reported missing on October 10th, 1918. The armistice was signed on November 11th, and the telegram, sent just days ago, claimed there was new evidence. What could surface months later that hadn't been known before? Unless it had been hidden. James's last letter suddenly felt different in Thomas's hands. He had read it dozens of times before, but now he searched it for something he might have missed. "We've been moved again. They say it's routine, but it doesn't feel like it. There are officers here I've never seen before, men who don't wear the same insignia. They don't talk much, but when they do, it's not about the war ending, it's about something else." Thomas's pulse quickened. He kept reading. "If anything happens, don't believe the first thing they tell you, and don't trust." The letter ended there, abruptly, as if it had been cut off. Thomas sat back, the pieces beginning to form a shape he didn't yet understand. This wasn't just about a missing soldier. It was about something the war had tried to bury, something that had survived the trenches, the bombs, and the official reports, something that was still alive, just like his brother. Outside, a ship's horn blared through the night, and for the first time, Thomas allowed himself to consider a possibility both terrifying and extraordinary. What if James hadn't been a victim of the war, but a witness to something far more dangerous?